Had him in another position, you moved him back to center. Is that a permanent thing? And what was kind of the thought process in coming to this conclusion?
It's a permanent thing. He's going to be our starting center. I think as we looked at, a couple of things. One, what's in the best interest of Jared Patterson first? He's one of the top centers in the country. And, it's hard for me, to, take a player and really put him in a position where it could affect him, down the road. He's done so much for our program. Could we be better served if he played another position? You could make the case. But I think my feeling was we're a good football team with Jared Patterson at center, and it helps him in the long run playing that position.
Blake Fisher's rapid development, did that assist you in making this decision?
Yeah, certainly, the mid-year guys make this decision a lot easier. And so we needed to assess that. So some of my comments, were prior to knowing exactly what was going on there and before we got, Kane. So some things happened after the fact. But yeah, certainly those were factors in this as well.
Is Corel a good fit at guard? I know he's not the tip. He's certainly not as big as last year's left guard.
Yeah, no doubt. He brings other, intangibles, right? He's smart, he's tough, he's athletic. The physical things that he brings relative to the guard position certainly outweigh the fact that he's not 325 pounds. So, there's the plus minus there.
Hey, Brian.
How do you see the rest of the offensive line playing out? Is there competition at some of those positions?
Oh, there's a lot of competition. And look, I would not, Tim mentioned Blake. I would not leave this conversation here and say, oh, Blake Fisher is the starting left tackle. Here's what I can tell you. Jared Patterson's the starting center. And Josh Lugg's going to play for us. Those two guys are the veterans on this offensive line that I can commit to right now. Everybody else has got to earn their way. Those guys have earned their way with me and this football team. The other guys have got some work to do. So, Blake hasn't taken a snap for Notre Dame yet, and he's got work to do. So I think we just hold on before we start saying, hey, this is what this is going to look like. And that's our attitude, I guess, is what I'm saying to you guys, is that we're going to keep competition at all of those positions with the eye towards Lugg's plan and Patterson's plan. And then we'll figure out the rest.
Okay, this is my first official question.
All right, so that was my own question and answer.
That was your own question
Okay.
and answer because.
Well, I've been rusty too then, I guess.
Okay, here we go. There's been a lot of speculation about Jordan Botello and his status with the team.
Yeah, I saw that. It was kind of a.
Okay, well, what can you tell us about Jordan Botello's situation with you? Is he in the clear as far as Notre Dame, the NCAA
he's
is?
cleared. Yeah.
And you expect him to play all the
Yes.
games this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some kind of rumor that he wasn't cleared to play, and that hasn't been the case. So, I look, rumors start. There's somebody thought something happened that didn't happen. We've had those happen before. Look, if somebody is off the team, we're going to tell you. We're going to let you know. If somebody is not playing for Notre Dame, we're going to let you know. We're not going to hide that from you. If there's something with academics, I can't comment on it. You know what I mean? But this isn't an academic situation. This isn't a drug testing policy situation. So I don't know where this came from, to be quite frank with you. So he's cleared to play and compete. So I don't know I don't know how else to answer the question. You did a good job. Okay, thank you.
Coach, to your right. Speaking of the competition, could you kind of discuss where the will linebacker next to Drew White and the corners start camp, how their competition is over the summer?
Oh my gosh, where do I start? I mean, you've seen all those linebackers. I mean, we're so deep at that position. You know, if I've asked Marcus once, I've asked him 10 times, how are we going to get all these guys involved? So, I mean, I should sit next to you guys, and we should put Marcus up here. Because I ask the same questions, you know, he'll be up here. You guys, you saw, he's going to come out, and we've got the coordinators, so you guys can ask him a million questions. But we got to, you know, we're deep there. So when you're deep at a position, you're trying to be creative. You're trying to look at situations where can somebody, you know, play situational? Can somebody be, you know, in our 3-down package, you know, can we maximize them there? So we're seeing the same things you guys are seeing from that perspective. When you look at the depth chart and you look at how well J.D. Bertrand is progressing and the size and weight that, you know, Leofau has put on. And you know the guys that are already been in the program. So, yeah, it's an interesting proposition.
And we assume 3 corners with Lewis, Bracey, and Hart. Is that a safe assumption, or are there a lot more?
No, I don't think you can rule out Henderson. You know, he's really emerging. You know, he's long, he's athletic. He's playing with a lot more confidence. I think you got to add him into the mix there as well. You know, somebody's got to play nickel, right? So you guys got to think about 3 corners, right? You got to think about an inside corner and an outside. So you got to think about 3. So for those positions. So you're really talking about the need to be, you know, at 6, you know, and that's kind of where Marcus wants the defense to be, is that he wants to be able to look at 6 corners from that perspective. Yeah.
Brian over here. When we last saw you about 2 months ago,
I was a lot thinner. Is that what you're going to
no,
say?
you look
Thank
good. Your swing looked
God,
good
you
too.
guys are beautiful.
But when we saw you up at Lost Dunes, at that time, the numbers, the Delta variant, and the numbers
Yeah.
were you know down, and now things have exploded. Have you given some thought in the last 2 months, the last couple of weeks, how are you going to stay ahead of this thing? Are you going to adopt some of the things that you did last year? And how did the team come back from the little time off that they have after summer school?
Yeah, good question. Look, you know, we're prepared because we went through it last year to, you know, wear masks, social distance, do all the things because unfortunately we had to go through that. So, you know, we've set into motion, you know, all of those things if in fact we need to get to it. The good news is we're 95% vaccinated with our team. So with the new NCAA rules and regulations is that, you know, we would need, well, right now we would not have a scenario that if with the small number of unvaccinated that we do have through exceptions, if they did get sick, it would not cause a test of our vaccinated, which is the big issue here. So because of that, we're in a good position to not require our guys to, in workouts, wear masks or when we are eating. But if things change, then we're prepared certainly to do that. That's also the case with our staff because we fall under the same category because, you know, we're working with the players. We're in a similar position with the vaccination amongst our staff. And as you know, the university has required that or file for an exemption. But if you do, if you're inside, you must wear a face mask and practice the CDC guidelines. So I think we feel really comfortable where we are. We know that there's the potential that it could go back to that, and I think we've made the appropriate arrangements if in fact it does.
Brian, I've got 2 for you in the back.
Okay.
First, just
Why do you get 2?
I'm just trying, right?
Pete, you
We'll
get
see.
2.
Beautiful,
Oh,
beautiful.
did you?
First, just simple, just kind of curious your impressions of day 1. how it went, progress that was made.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting. I think as coaches, you know, we're so excited to get back out there that maybe we needed to do a little bit of a better job today in managing it. I think we pushed our guys, you know, pretty hard today, and I think I saw that the practice was. You know, there was a bit of a fatigue at the end of practice, so I think we got to do a little bit better job as coaches. And then our players have to adjust as well, right? You know, it's the first time with helmets, and, you know, we wore spider pads, but they're pretty good pads. And they hadn't done that all summer. So there's a bit of an adjustment on both sides. We'll be better tomorrow, but I really liked the way they went about practice. You know, it wasn't about winning the drill per se relative to production. It was much more about, you know, how was my technique? Did I execute it the right way? And so their mindset was excellent that way. So I leave the practice going, man, they get it, right? You know, we got enough veterans out here that they understand how to practice, and that our player-led practices through the summer were really, you know, obviously effective in terms of them understanding. But I think we got to do a little bit of a better job in putting the practice schedule together tomorrow when it's 90 degrees.
All right. At the quarterback position,
Yeah.
as you're evaluating there, how much stock do you put in what Jack did before he got here versus what you see over the next 3 weeks?
Well, a lot. That's why we took him. we didn't take him because he didn't play before. We took him because he had battle-tested experience in the Big Ten and a very good program, and quite frankly, one that we respect in Wisconsin and Coach Christ and what they do. So a lot of that had to do with, you know, where he came from and him being battle-tested. And so, you know, from our standpoint, he came with a lot of that. He still had to earn it, and he's still earning it, but this won't be a long, drawn-out camp. We'll make a decision after the first scrimmage as to who the starter is. When's that scrimmage? The 6th day.
Coach down in front. I was ready to ask you about the timeline of the quarterbacks. How important is that to make a decision early in camp so that everyone knows what the deal is there and just get things moving for the rest of camp?
That was my third cough. Usually Katie would have the water up here by now. I'm gonna make it like 6 coughs or 7 until I choke and there's no more press conference. And Katie, I'm kidding with you. There's no water here. You're not gonna find any.
Someone just sprinted out of the room to get you.
You see, I'm coaching every day. There's a lot of work here. I would normally say, Angelo, that is really important, but all of these guys, and in particular Drew and Jack, have a lot of respect, and our guys will be ready to go with either one of them in particular. Tyler, you know, is a young kid, and, you know, there would be more, you know, preparation needed there. And so from that perspective, I don't know that this is one that, hey, you know, the guys are going to be unfamiliar. But we just feel like we've got a pretty good sense of where this is going to go, and we want to make sure that we're going to make the right decision and give everybody the chance over the next week to make their case.
Is there anything in particular Drew Pine has to do to win the job?
I just think he needs to continue to be Drew Pine and you know, take advantage of the opportunities. He's getting first-team reps, so when he gets his opportunity to continue to take full advantage of them.
And lastly, for me, obviously we saw 30 minutes, but any injuries after we departed?
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. The blue Gatorade. It's like, we'll do whatever we got to do, right? We had a couple of soft tissue injuries, nothing that I can really report that are going to be, you know, anything outstanding. From an injury standpoint, we had a little bit of a pec injury in the summer with Isaiah Foskey that was managed today, but he's fine. He was cleared to go. You saw him out there. So we're actually in really good health from that perspective. So, yeah, just a couple soft tissue injuries.
Brian Newt,
Yeah.
what did you like from a leadership perspective over the summer?
Yeah.
Certainly looking at the guys who are leading the lines, it's like a new generation of guys out there from what you've had the last couple of years.
Yeah, so, we had 14 guys that were in leadership roles, and they were outstanding. We voted for captains. I'll announce captains on Monday. So I'll have that for you guys on Monday once our faculty board clears them. But I would say that it's probably, I think I could confidently say it's the deepest group of leaders that I've had here. 2019, we had 7 captains. This looks like it could be similar from that perspective. Just really good leaders, well respected, carry the standard of what our program is about. And so the 12 guys you saw up front, add Houston Griffith to that and Jack Cohn, and those are the 14 guys that have leadership roles in our program. So the 12 guys up front plus those 2, and they've been, they're well respected and they're very good leaders.
At the receiver position, a couple things. I was curious about sort of the return to full go for Kevin Austin, sort of what you want August to look like for him, and then also you were pretty upfront in spring about sort of the Wilkins, Keys, Lindsey, like you need something new from them.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they had the summer you wanted to give you that?
Transformational. And I underline that word. I know that sounds strong in terms of, when I use a word like that, sometimes, it's hyperbole, but these kids have changed their body, their commitment level, what we've asked them to do, they've taken it to heart. Now, they got to go make plays. I get that. But they understand how important they are to our success. And they look at, Coach Bayless was absolutely impressed. Joe Wilkins won the battle for points at the wide receiver tight end position for the most points. And he was probably in the lower third last summer in terms of points. Braden Lindsey was in the top 10%. That is transformational for those guys. Kevin Austin's always been a physical presence, so he continued on that realm. So, there's great optimism from that perspective. Answering the question further, we want to be measured with Kevin as we go through, and so we're going to be very careful with him as we get him, back to football shape. But there's a lot of optimism right now about where that group is and where they can go.
Hey, Coach, just what are your thoughts on name, image, and likeness and how your program has handled it so far?
Yeah, I'm excited for our guys. There's a lot of work that we still have to do with, just handling each circumstance that comes our way. And look, it's everybody wishes that there was a clear doctrine on how we handle each and every situation. But I think there's really good communication. I think, the goal here is to collaborate and help our players and educating them the best we can. But there's always going to be those situations where, why are we doing it or why can't we do this? And we're just, as we told our team, let's work together and figure it out. And so we're just trying to be collaborative and communicate the best we can so we can help our players utilize it in the best shape and form. Look, I think it's a lot similar to maybe it's probably 6-8 years ago when Twitter really burst on the scene. Some programs said, hey, shut off your phones, don't use Twitter. And my response was, let's use this in a positive way, right? Let's use Twitter in a positive way. And I think this is the same thing with name, image, and likeness. Let's look at this as a positive and how we can be helpful and use this in a positive way. And that's our mindset, and that's how we see name, image, and likeness.
And then last one for me, just what are your early impressions of Jojo Johnson since he's stepped on campus?
He's a typical freshman. He's excited to be here. He's done everything we've asked him to do, but his eyes are in the back of his head right now. I mean, it's fast. It's there's a lot going on. He's a great kid. We're excited to have him, but I mean, he's drinking out of a fire hose right now. But that's pretty common. Those that don't, and there's a couple that we have, and you guys will see them as this thing kind of settles down. They rise to the top. The Mike Mayers, they kind of show themselves. We got a couple that are not drinking out of a fire hose, and they'll show themselves. But he's pretty typical. Good. Oh, we got a couple more. You got the mic, man. Yeah. Look at you. You're ready to go.
Yeah, more of a general question, but in the spring you said that you felt you had a good team, and the question was how to get from good to great. How much closer do you feel you are to having a great team now after a summer of work?
No, we got that. Yeah, we're look. So the summer is about physical conditioning, right? And then coming together, the relationships of your team. Like, I have a different perspective now on COVID and what it did to teams. Like, this team during COVID, like, it could have been hard on them, like, in terms of adversity. It would have been hard. Last year I had veterans. Like, a bomb could have went off, and that group, it wouldn't have bothered them, right? We had so many veterans. And so I can see how teams might have struggled last year in COVID, right? This team needed to be together this summer, and they came together, right? And they came together. So now it's about, building this football team from a technical standpoint and from a tactical standpoint and a mental standpoint. So when we get to Florida State and they start doing the chop, we don't run for the exit, So we got some work to do, over the next, 24 days.
Brian, kind of following up on Pete's question. Following up on Pete's question about the leadership, what do you attribute? You said it's the best leadership depth of your time here. What do you attribute that to? I guess how rewarding is that for you to be able to say that? And then my second question would be, you talked about a timeline for the quarterbacks. What about for the offensive line? Is it a similar timeline to try and get that chemistry as well to find the best five, or what do you look for in that regard?
Yeah, so the leadership is it's just the accumulation of our process and being in the program over a period of time where it's passed down each year now. So we've built our program and our standards, whatever words you want to use, standards, culture. Culture is a way of doing things. Everybody knows the way of doing things, and so it's passed down now to that next group that's coming up. So it's been embedded into our program, so it's easy to pass it on to the next. There's a consistency in the application, right? Every single year. It doesn't change. There's not a new way of doing things. So that's how that depth of leadership is built. In terms of the quarterback position, or did you say the offensive? The O-line. Yeah, I think there's less of a concern in terms of, we've got, two veterans there that are strong leaders. Lug and Patterson are really strong leaders. I'm not really that concerned about chemistry with that group as much as getting the right people on the field together as one.
Brian, continuing on the leadership theme, two new guys expected to exert some leadership this year, Jack Cohn and Kane Madden, but they're new in the program, but they're thrust into that position. What style of leadership do you see coming out of Jack? What kind of style is his leadership style? And Kane Madden, similar question.
So we have Coach Bayless gives out an award at the end of the summer. He awards 20 players, approximately 20 players as Ultimate Warriors. Jack Cohn was one of those Ultimate Warriors. It's hard to get that award. So he's seen by his peers as a warrior, somebody that is on time for every workout, is there, is committed. You can count on him. He's a guy that you want. And apologize for the analogy, but this guy you want lined up next to you in the foxhole, right? You can count on that guy. So, that doesn't have to be a vocal guy, right? You can be a leader from that perspective. Kane rooms with Kurt Heinisch. Kurt's a very popular player on our team. So by virtue of that relationship, Kane is been embedded into our football team from that perspective. So, he's well-liked. His personality fits in very well with the guys. So I think from that perspective, I don't know that you necessarily have to be standing in front of the group as much as you have to be respected by the group.
One quick follow-up on injuries. Mawala
Yes.
and Jared Clark.
Brandon Clark, yeah.
Thank you.
So Brandon is still limited. He's probably a few weeks away from, being able to, be cleared, at 100%. But he's still lagging behind, and not through anything that he hasn't done. He's been crazy in the training room, but he's a few weeks behind. And Paul is full go. He was active in all of our 11-on-11 and 7-on-7, but Brendan's got some work to do yet. He's still a few weeks back. Tyler James, you get the last one.
I know, it's a lot of pressure.
We give out a gift now, Tyler.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hopefully
It's a blue Gatorade. It's,
Oh, yeah.
It's COVID,
Sure. What is your outlook on the safety position outside of Kyle Hamilton? What's that competition?
We have to have more than Kyle
Right,
Hamilton.
yeah, right, yeah.
Okay.
So how are those guys progressing? What do you see? How do you see that working out in terms of guys alongside him and guys behind him as well?
Yeah, I mean, we like the spring that Houston had. We love his leadership. We love what he's been about in terms of his makeup, and so we're counting on Houston. DJ, obviously, we're counting on him to really play a significant role for us. So, I think it starts with those two guys, and so those three in particular, and finding the fourth. There's a number of guys that will compete for that position, but I think you start with the three safeties, and let's go find a fourth.
And can Houston and DJ both play that same position opposite of Kyle?
Yes, they can. They both can rotate and play both. Yep. All right. Hey, this was great. Let's try to do this again in another year. All right. Good seeing you.